Ashes of Creation potential has finally been revealed. Now, a lot of people have talked about this game. This is by an individual that has had a very mixed reception on my channel. I'm very excited to see what he's going to say. Here we go.
Breaking news. As the new World of Warcraft furry expansion is announced, the internet have been consuming a dangerous amount of substance known as copium. Neckbeard.
Bro, he won't stop. He won't let down. He won't back down. This is the same fucking guy. Yep, that's right. He's got a new video out, and we're gonna see it. Yep, he's tripling down. You thought one video refuting the haters was bad? Bruh. This is number 2.
Kids, normies, and furries alike have banded together to blindly overdose on this mysterious substance, claiming that even after 15 years of letdowns, Blizzard are finally listening. There's no telling what the future holds for this dead franchise, but the dwindling player base are confident
it's gonna be different this time.
The giant corporate entity known as Activision can bring this nostalgic MMORPG back from the grave.
Thank God for that.
A reporter is live down at YouTube headquarters as the crazed mob of copium addicts are lynching a naysayer as we speak.
Oh no.
Over to you, Chad.
Yes, it's absolute carnage down here. These copium-fueled viewers are furious with a man who is simply telling the truth to the mass.
Claiming World of Warcraft will die. World of Warcraft will never die because my identity revolves around World of Warcraft. And if it dies, I die. Burn the naysayers.
As you can see, they are not happy, and if they put any more pressure on this channel, their attempts to silence the truth may become reality.
Oh my
Admirable, but mistaken. You people merely adopted the copium.
Oh my God.
I was born in it, molded by it. I didn't see the truth until I was already lost. And by then, it was nothing to me but lies.
It's accurate.
Hey, what up, boys? So after the recent exposure from Asmongold during...
I love how that happens. Some fucking, like, super intense scene with him staring into the camera with a fucking... like, hey, what up, boys? How you doing? Hey, yeah, it's me again. How you doing? Yep. Hey. Alright, let's get into the video. Holy shit. Okay, let's go.
The Dragonflight incident, the channel has been doing so well that I decided to take a couple of days off and enjoy one of my favorite pastimes, your mum. But we're back to work and the never-ending grind for relevancy must begin again. Today, I thought we'd take a different approach and instead of farming controversy by shitting on furries with clickbait, we'll discuss Ashes of Creation's recent world event reveal and what this means for the potential of Vera's living, breathing world.
I didn't know if that was fake or not. I thought it was for part of the video for a second, but we're good. What the fuck?
But before we get into that...
Oh, I think my player's like...
Grab yourself a Coca-Cola, because although this month's livestream was jam-packed with lots of niche information, it was all pretty hard to take in without some proper visual aids, you know, like... gameplay? No?
Oh, imagine gameplay. Oh, wow.
This game's not a scam, guys. So today, I'm going to break down all of that information so our mere mortal brains can understand the genius that is Stephen Sharif's vision.
Okay, let's see it.
With all that bollocks out of the way, let's begin, shall we?
Let's do it.
World events in Ashes of Creation will be one of the main ways this MMO delivers its content onto us,
the
players. This means that essentially a large percentage of playable content is pretty much dynamic. This will then make Ashes of Creation the first truly dynamic open world MMO to exist on the market, which is another great selling point for this highly anticipated game. But just how in-depth is this dynamic content going to be? I've made many videos explaining how dynamic content works in MMOs and what Ashes of Creation is doing differently to fix any mistakes previous MMOs have made. But today's video is not simply remaking that old video with a different title. Oh, no, I would never do that. I am a content machine, and all my videos are completely unique and never repeat themselves just to stall out the channel until Alpha 2 arrives. With the information given to us in the last livestream, we have a pretty solid understanding of what Steven means when he says dynamic, so I'll break that down for you now. At their core, these events are broken into 5 states. Active, which means the event has spawned and is waiting for players to participate. In progress, which means the event is currently, in progress. Yeah. Inactive, which obviously means the server isn't at a state where the event has actually spawned. On cooldown, which means the event has recently been completed and has a timer on it. Which means the event has recently been completed and has a timer on it before it begins again. And finally, disabled, which would likely mean events that would normally spawn in areas have been removed temporarily because of current world events, be it a world boss attacking a node, a siege, or a holiday period like a Halloween siege or Christmas. Like that. This is basically how events work in Guild Wars 2. In fact, it's almost identical because for a dynamic event system like this to actually work, this is pretty much the only formula that you can use. So technically that means Ashes of Creation isn't doing anything innovative here. It's just taking a well-made system from a successful MMO and building upon it.
I think that's a good idea. Like, that's what they should do. They shouldn't try to like, I've always said this, like, don't reinvent the wheel. There are good, positive success cases in every single type of game. You don't need to change everything and do your own new crazy thing just because you want to show off for how crazy and cool your ideas are. WoW is exactly like that. And I think that's what he's about to say.
What World of Warcraft does.
True.
I'm joking, of course. World of Warcraft haven't innovated on anything for the last 15 years.
Well, they have.
The other core mechanic with Ashes of Creation's events is everything will be on a timer, also similar to Guild Wars 2. Timers are really good for creating a smooth, infinite loop of content. When you strip Guild Wars 2's systems down to its core, you can clearly see how every major event in the game basically runs on a strict, predictable timer. Yeah. A timer that allows players to congregate before it starts, ready to participate and clear the event in an efficient manner.
Well, this is the same thing as like Lost Ark Islands. Like, you have, where's Tuki? Tuki, where's Tuki? Where is it? Does anybody know where Tuki is? And, like, that's what it is. Every couple of hours, whenever it shows up. And like, that's what people do with this game too. I'm sure we'll do with the Guild Wars 2 as well. Because like, people have like an idea of whenever things are going to happen. And like, you know, servers are structured, they're programmed for things to occur at certain times. And I think that's always a good thing to an extent too, because that way people can plan to be there for certain events and not worry about missing them. Sometimes, you know, you want to have random things that are truly random as well though.
The bosses, for example, are on a track that cannot be altered. However, Steven explained that a lot of these events in Ashes of Creation are tied to player activity and node progression. For example, an event won't be active until a certain service building is built within a node. So how will they be dealing with timers in relation to that? Will everything be tightly tied to real-life time, or will they create their own little isolated timer that cannot be tracked outside of visual clues and in-game notifications? Something will be touched.
I think that there's going to be a way to figure it out. Like, as with all of these games, I think the more that you try to obfuscate it, the more people are going to get annoyed and they're just going to want to figure it out, right? I mean, and it's always going to happen. There's always going to be a way. It's just, there's no reason to try to hide it.
On in the next segment. If it is the latter, then this is once again a major step towards preventing economy-breaking guides that plague the static systems in our currently popular MMOs. Yeah. Unfortunately though, the drawback of the latter is that it's a mechanic that will be almost impossible to balance properly without weird stalling issues as players' unpredictable nature get added into the equation. So, I very much expect...
Yeah, I think Ashes of Creation, this is going to be a struggle they're going to have throughout the entire development, is like when good ideas meet stupid players. That's basically what it is. Like, whenever you have your brilliant, great, amazing idea that's really well defined, and then it's like, remember, did you guys ever see that video where it's like the guy putting every single object through the square hole? Did you guys see that? Where it's like the triangle goes down the square hole, the rectangle goes down the square hole. Yes, I think that is the best way that I think I can describe the way that players look at solving problems that game creators design. Yes, with the crying lady, yes, exactly.
These events to eventually get tied to real-life time. This means that the content delivery isn't going to be quite as in-depth as we actually think it will. If you compare Guild Wars 2's dynamic events to World of Warcraft's pathetic attempt with world quests, you'll notice that they're very different styles and very different deliveries. Everything created in Guild Wars 2 is handcrafted and specific to the local area, with multiple ways you can branch off and affect the physical world, opening unique vendors and shortcuts that eventually lead to more loot or even a world boss. Whereas the world quests in WoW, they're just rehashed leveling quests changed into daily spawning world quests with some copy-pasted generic kill X amount of mobs in the area. The sad reality of these two types when you consider the modern MMO player.
Yeah, I loved it. That was amazing. I love the Legion world quests. They were so good. I think that we had this in Classic WoW. Like, if you played Classic, how many of you guys were in, like, a World Boss Coalition or a Discord or something like that, where people knew that, I don't know, Kha'Zix can spawn within the next 4 hours, and, like, so people were just, like, sitting there waiting. So, like, WoW has had this, like, you know, like, random content like this, but it's created a lot of drama at the same time. So, like, and there's a reason why they moved away from that, too. I don't know what Ashes of Creation is going to do, but I'd like to see them take another shot at world bosses like Classic. Just do it. Just take another shot. See what happens. Try it in beta. Try it in alpha. That way we get an idea if it's possible or not.
Base, it's that WoW's world quests, although they are generic and boring, they are easy to follow and complete, they're clearly labeled on your map for any brain-dead monkey to go and get their rewards. Guild Wars 2 doesn't do this, and instead uses a proximity-based notification system, and should you be out of that short proximity, unless you're actively looking 360 degrees around you at all times, you would never know that them events actually exist in the first place. Which leads us nicely onto the topic
I think that letting people know that the events are happening is actually a good thing. I would like to have them be on the minimap. I don't like the idea of, oh, well, you don't know if this is on the minimap or not. I just feel like it's just a negative thing. Yeah, people just call for them in Discord, etc. Yeah, like, I feel like, again, you're trying to recapture a mirage. You're trying to recapture something. You're trying to step in the same river twice. Gaming has changed. You're not going to have this. Like, you're going to have Discords, call-out Discords. Lost Ark has this with Wandering Merchants. People have found out the spawn locations and spawn timings. Like Final Fantasy has this with hunt trains. Like, there's just a lot of these fucking things. So just stop trying to fucking chase after something that's gone. Not seeing it promotes chat and community, even Discord communities, etc. I don't feel like making people required to get into a Discord to play the game efficiently is an improvement on the game. I don't think so. I think having it on the map is a good idea. Having it on the map so people know what's going on. I think that's a good idea.
How is Ashes of Creation dealing with this dilemma?
And, like, also, I want to say that this is one thing that happens is, like, I think that some MMO players have a lot of these, like, perceived values of perceived community, immersion, exploration, and like, these things occur at the expense of just the average player's experience, and that's something that's not good. If you have something that's immersive and it makes the game worse, then it shouldn't be there.
Now, I must grace you all once again with another one of my hot takes. I actually think the way World of Warcraft direct you to content through their World Quest interface is the only way the modern MMO player base can engage in this level of dynamic content. Allow me to explain. You see, a problem with Guild Wars 2's world is that because these events are very fleeting and isolated, whilst you're traveling around, it's super easy to miss an active event that is barely a couple of seconds to your left, simply because the visual clues for that event are very lackluster. But more importantly, it's because the indication that there's content over in that direction doesn't clearly show up on your map. Now, granted, because Guild Wars 2's world is very dynamic, if all events were seeable on your map at once, it would probably look like a child has scribbled all over it. This is just an unfortunate, unavoidable downside to their vanilla, living, breathing world. Later on, though, as the expansions were rolled out, they did kind of solve this solution, but the core issue still remains. Guild Wars 2, despite the mega server tech, the high population and insane density of content, the world does feel very lonely. Whoa, calm down there. I can already hear 1,000 fingers all typing out a defense against this obvious slander against Guild Wars 2.
Well, that would require Guild Wars 2 to have 100 players, and so I don't know if that would happen. But anyway, so here's, I mean, this is true. Like, yes, obviously, again, the game has, like, there are positives and negatives to everything. Like, there are positives to having it where, you know, nobody can see it and it feels like more exclusive. It feels like you're taking advantage of something really cool. And then there's also positives to just having it on the map and people can see it and they can go to it. But like, I do think that one of them is a very, very easy to quantify playability increase, and the other one is like a theoretical, like, immersion thing. And I don't care as much about theoretical immersion things.
Stop huffing the copium for a moment and consider this from a new player's perspective. Because there is no reason to go back to the old world, sadly, all vanilla content in Guild Wars 2 aside from world bosses, it's just dead. Now, I'm not saying WoW completely solves this issue with their world quests, but because they are static and are always on display no matter where you are, you're pretty much guaranteed to run into players in every single world quest spot. Ashes of Creation is doing...
That only applies... No, I think this is a bad comparison, because that only what was I saying? That only applies to the current expansion. So if you're talking about, like, things that are in other expansions, like if I go to a BFA world quest, there's not going to be anybody there. Like, there's nobody that's going to be there. And I think that's to be expected. Like, people would go back and do world quests, and like Blizzard does have incentives for that, but like all of the incentives are cosmetic, and I can guarantee you that's how you would want it. You wouldn't want Blizzard to add something into the game where it's like you have to go back and do like Legion world quests in order to get like an item for the current raid. I think a lot of people would be annoyed by that. So it's very hard to know like where that line is, and I think that honestly the best idea for this is to go with something that you feel fits your style of game and your style of design, and then just make the game around that. Because one thing I see a lot of these games doing is that they keep trying to like do something that other games are doing, rather than doing their own thing and then doing it very well. I think that you have a number of really positive ways you can go about it. All of those ways can be successful if the game is well designed. You know, don't compromise your design philosophy based off of trying to adhere to one idea. Do with whatever you want to do, and just make the design however you feel like it would fit best into your game. Didn't you say Blizzard should be copying the good parts of other games? Yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. Are we running into a situation where there's only black and white? Is that what we're doing? Is this a no nuance situation? Are we gonna do this?
Something unique to try and solve Guild Wars 2's issue without compromising too much of the living, breathing nature of it. You see, instead of shoving UI elements into our face, plastering crayon scribbles onto our map, or flashing up notifications every 5 minutes like Arcade did, Ashes of Creation are really focusing on the sound and visual clue elements to give people more of a clear direction of where the content is.
See, I think that's the best way to do it. Not the best way, but I think that's a great way to do it. Like, imagine you're in a zone and the zone immediately turns to night. There's a giant fucking blood moon eclipse in the sky and demons are spawning all around you. You don't need a notification on the middle of the screen. Hello, adventurer. If you would please direct your character over to the Stony Mountains. There's going to be a demon invasion in 4 minutes and 59 seconds. Thank you. Like, yeah, that's not gonna happen. I think it's much better to have something that happens organically in the world, and the less amount of, and this is just like a general way that I feel about in the game, is that you should never be in a situation where information is not being given out. But I think the more information that can be translated and then can be like communicated through, the more information that can be communicated through some sort of like visual cue rather than text is better. So like you should never have a point where people are not getting information, but you should have a point where people can look at and get visual cues to get that information.
Makes Ashes feel very much like a Dungeons & Dragons-esque adventure, something Steven and the team are very much focused on as part of their primary design. With sound and visual clues being a major part of telling people where to go, it's almost like the world itself is playing the DM, guiding us on our adventure, telling us what we see and giving us a choice on how to react. If we were a lone wolf just starting our adventure in Vera, that volcano erupting in the distance, bellowing out a bone-chilling roar would probably not appeal to us as we'd value our life. However, should you be a veteran warrior out for glory and loot, that fiery bellow would be the exact kind of challenge you were looking for. Which
because you can hear the mountain erupt and it's like, it sounds really cool. Also, I think it's important to, like, Ashes of Creation had this in the beta, or the alpha, whatever it was. They had it to where I like it whenever there are high-level points of interest near the low-level questing zones. Because it gives the low-level players something to look forward to, and it creates a context around what they're doing in the game. Like, I think, like, you know, like in Duskwood, and you, like, go into the middle and you see the gigantic fucking dragon, or, you know, like, there's a number of other cases like this, too. Like, I really think that, like, that interaction is, like, super important. It's like you're a new player playing the game, and you see, like, a fucking, you know, a cavalry marching, or, you know, like, riding next to you towards the fucking erupting mountain, and you think to yourself, like, man, like, once I fucking get to a high enough level, I can do this myself, too. Like, that's a really, really cool feeling to have in games.
Around to a very rare occasion where I praise New World. Because if there's one thing we can take away from that train wreck of a game, it's the goddamn sound design. I very much expect Intrepid were taking some serious notes when it comes to sound design, not only for gathering, but also how to utilize sound effects over long distances to convey information to us, the player. Okay. But to conclude today's video, I will pose a few questions for you, my dear viewer. How do you personally feel about dynamically spawning content? Do you feel like Ash's hybrid event design can solve both issues present in world quests and dynamic events? Do you think Intrepid need to go back to the drawing board and commit to just one or the other?
I think it's always better to have different kinds based off of what they are. So, like, if something's more of a cosmetically based thing, I think it's way better if it's a, just, like, some random fucking, like, it's not very well told. But the difference is that if it's something that's, like, very important that people have to know about, I think that it's important that you tell people and you make sure that they understand exactly what they're getting into. Like, you know, like cosmetics, like a mount spawn or something like that. Yeah, maybe don't tell people about that and, like, have people farm that out themselves. But, like, in terms of actual rewards and stuff like that, yeah, make sure people know what that is.
Static quests, or to just
this is old
when conceptualizing underlining systems like this, because of today's meta mentality, they tend to get picked apart extremely quickly, and that exposes obvious weaknesses in the system. This then snowballs into broken, exploitable problems that simply cannot be fixed due to them being baked into the game's core design. However, the beauty of open development with alpha phases like Ashes of Creation have planned, the extensive testing by passionate players like us will iron out all of these problems, and theoretically, the game will launch in a pretty much unbreakable state. But then again, maybe I'm just fulfilling the quota.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think that there's going to be a million things that go wrong with this game, and it doesn't matter. Like, I'm fine if there's a million things that go wrong with the game, because I'm just hoping that there's a million and one things that go right with it. Like, that's the only way I look at it, right? It's like, I expect that it's going to be a shit show. Like, imagine how boring New World would be if we didn't have any duping. Can you imagine that? Like, if there was no duping, imagine there was not a single dupe that ever occurred in New World. That game would suck, man. It would be so boring. Like, oh my god, it's boring with duping. It wasn't. Like, the drama was great. And like, what I'm saying is that, like, you can't expect a game like Ashes of Creation that's releasing with more features and different systems than every other MMO on the market combined. You cannot imagine and expect this system to ship and go live without glaring, obvious, massive flaws. That's just the truth. I know Steven will be like, no, we're gonna have it done. Great. We'll see what happens, okay? But my opinion is, I think that's what's gonna happen. There's gonna be a bunch of problems, and I don't care. I'll still play the game. Like, it doesn't really matter to me. I just expect this to happen.
Of copium for those of you who made it to the end of this video. But as usual, I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO.
Yeah,
and my opinions mean nothing without yours in the comments below. And hey, why don't you go ahead and save my channel from falling into irrelevancy as the mighty Al Gore drags me back into the pits of depression that is a daily upload schedule.
Yeah, nobody ever
But
does it.
Narc, I heckin' love world quests because I don't have to use my brain.
And to that I say, listen, kid. If you think not having to use your brain is a positive trait to describe an MMO, then you're high on copium.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Welcome back.
Just a second, let me change this. It's fucking laggy. Yeah, all right, let me close this. Actually, I'll just reopen it. It's not a big deal. I in general think this is kind of true. Let me make sure I link it again too. That way you guys can see it. Yeah, I think this guy's videos are great. I feel like he's just very, yeah. All right, stalling Reaper kill. We're not going to stall anymore. I'm about to start, okay? There's a video. I want to link it to you guys. I think this is very much true. Like, there is no... I actually think that there is value that you can put in having mindless content. And I know some people might disagree with this, but I believe that there is. And I think that even the developers of RuneScape believe this too. They even said that there's content that's, this is just like mindless content for you to do while you're, working or you're on a phone call or something like that. I think that's okay. You should have some content in the game that's not super fucking intense, this like massive high octane shit. Like, MMOs are about relaxation, and they're also about, big fucking dragon raids that you have to focus on as well. So you've got to have both types of content, and I think that's really where the dichotomy is going to come. And I think that's where Ashes of Creation is going to have to figure out where they want to be in the middle ground. In my opinion, I don't think that they should have a middle ground. I think that they should do both. They should have some bits of content that are, following one paradigm and other bits of content that are following another. All right.